Hi, welcome to Module 2, where we are going to be practicing creating an action plan. Now, an action plan helps us determine what steps and how we actually can complete a project. It's more than just our directions. We're kind of building on that. It's how we take the directions and apply them to how we are going to be able to do something. Once again, I'm going to say it this time, I'm going to always say it. We are looking at the study skills, these skills that help us to learn. It's okay if you do not understand the academic material that we're covering. How we learn, not what we learn. So in order to create our action plan, we've got a couple key steps. So you're going to be practicing deciding what done looks like for a project, determining what steps you need to take, figuring out the materials that you're going to need for this project, and finally taking all that information and putting it all together to create your actual action plan. Okay, so fundamentals of planning. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. It may seem silly to take the time out to do an action plan before a big project, but it will help you complete your project faster if you just take the little extra time to make sure that you've got a really clear idea of what you need, what you're going to do, and what it's going to look like when you're all finished. So again, what we're going to be focusing on is what does done look like? What do we know, or what is it going to look like when we're actually finished? Okay? We need to know the steps. Okay? It's great to just be like, well, step 1, finish the project. That's great, but probably we need to break it down a little further. And then finally, what materials do I need? Materials, it may not be, or it could be things like construction paper or tape, but it could also be like, I need 3 articles, or I have to find 7 pictures. Okay, those are examples of materials too. So this is a planning concept that you're going to get used to in that first, we decide what done looks like. How do we know that we have finished a project? Okay, that's the first question we ask ourselves. The second question we ask ourselves, and this is usually having to do with the directions, is what steps do I need to do? Okay, what should I do first? What should I do second? Am I going to have to research? Am I going to have to write? Then, based on that, that's when you decide what materials am I going to need? All right, am I going to need those pictures? Am I going to need milk carton tops, whatever you need for a project. Okay, so that's the planning, and we do it in reverse. We figure out our done, we figure out our do, and we're figuring out our materials. When you actually go and complete the project, you do it the other way. You get your materials first, you do all your steps, and then hopefully at the end, you get what your final project. But we are only working on planning, so we're only working on these 1, 2, and 3s. Okay? Save the 4, 5, and 6 for when you actually do the project. And another time. So why do we ask ourselves what done looks like? We need to know where we're going. It's great if you're driving in a car. If you're looking at a map, you're usually going to need to know your endpoint, because otherwise you're just driving around randomly. Okay? You want to know what sort of quality your work needs to meet. If you have a rubric for your project, you're definitely going to pull a lot of that information from your rubric. In terms of deciding the steps, okay, you want to try and break up your project into smaller steps. For example, if your project is to clean your room, okay, if you put clean your room, that might have a little anxiety because you don't know where to start. But if you break it down into smaller steps like make my bed, fold my clothes, get out any silverware and plates, pick things off the floor, then you're getting more of your action plan there. So you're also going to know what materials you need. As we talked before, that could be something physical. If you are building something with tools, if you're trying to think about what you will need in order to make a sandwich, those could be physical materials. But if you're doing an online project, it could be something like, I need these pictures. I need a login to this account. So again, when you are actually doing your project, which we are not, that's when you would do it in reverse. You'd get your materials, you'd follow your steps, and then you would complete it. So let's practice with our practice project. So those are my instructions. Here is my action plan. I've got my project. So remember, first I'm going to look at done. And thankfully, because I've got a rubric here, I can pull most of my information on done. What does done look like? Okay, it tells me exactly what I'm going to need in order to have the best project. So I would take this information and I would put it in my done column, which I already have. So then, now I know it done, I know where I need to go. How can I get there? So what steps do I need to do? So this is one of those areas when you're deciding the steps, you don't want to have a million billion steps, but it'll be easier to figure out exactly how you're going to do things and how long it's going to take you if you do try to break these up into smaller chunks so that you can kind of plan what you need to do. So basically here, and for some of these, it gets kind of pulled out for you. One of the things I'm going to need to do is choose a time period and tell the teacher, all right? So in terms of researching, you can say maybe you're doing online research, or you can include that you're going and you're researching for at the library, or because we know that we have multiple areas that we need to research, maybe we might break it down into online research for basic information, online research for the environment, and then you keep going like that until you get your do steps. So you see here, I have broken down my project and all the steps that I need to do. Okay, so some of them are going to be easy. Decide on the time period and tell the teacher. Okay, but then we start breaking things up more. Like I'm going to do research basic information. Then I know I'm going to need to find the picture. Then I know I'm going to need to type this up. Okay, then I've got my next section. I'm researching the geologic history. I've got to find the pictures. I've got to find climate facts. And I got to write it up. Ditto with the researching of the life forms. Okay, then I'm going to have, since I'm choosing to do this in a PowerPoint, I've put in a step, put information and pictures on a PowerPoint. Then I'm putting as a step, make PowerPoint look interesting, because I know there are many people who like to spend long periods of time changing the colors and the fonts. Okay, a step is making sure to proofread it so that all the information is right and it's spelled correctly. Then I know I'm going to have to put in the references, and I know that I'm going to have to turn it in to the teacher. So these are the steps for doing. Now, because I know all of this, I know my materials. Okay, so some of my materials are going to be places where I can research this. That's the information that I'm going to need. I know that I'm going to need multiple pictures. I know that I'm going to need access to a PowerPoint. I'm going to need to be online, some place to type. These are all sorts of materials that I'm going to need. There you see, I went through and I got the materials. Okay, so these are the things that I know that I'm going to need. So here, this is an action plan. Okay, this is an action plan, something that we are able to check off when we actually do the project, which we're not going to do, but just in theory. So what you guys need to do is you're going to be creating 2 action plans of your own. We're going to start with something smaller, and then you'll create one for your project, just like I did. But first, you'll need to look at the assignments page because you are going to make an action plan for what you're going to eat for lunch. Okay? So remember, you need to start backwards. Describe what your lunch is going to look like. What are the steps? How are you going to make your lunch? And get ready. What are you going to need to make the lunch? Okay, there's a rubric for you to know what you're expected to do, but just in general, you can't just eat like ice cream, and it has to be a better meal than just that. All right?